got all of our picks in, gave us a little bit of time, and now we're ready to attack NBA and the NHL because this is a playoff Sunday for all of you sports fans out there, and we don't want you to miss out on any of the research, any of the data, any of the opportunities to cash in on these matchups today. 2 NBA games, NHL games to cover as well. We will be doing some Q&A on these games, so if you've been waiting on Q&A, we're definitely going to get you ready for all of the action this afternoon. For those that are new to Butt Fumble Sports, we're a sports content company created by a sports fan. For you real sports fans at home, I certainly hope that you love the content and the conversation. Make sure you hit the follow button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're with us every time we go live. We're live almost every single day. Today we're actually doing a two-parter. We did our baseball just in the morning. We're now getting to our NBA and our NHL. Make sure you throw your questions in the comments section. We're all ready to go. When will your bets be posted? My bets are up, Kevin D. They're both on the SHARPZ app. They're also on my Instagram story. So if you've been waiting on my MLB game picks, they're already up there. NBA, NHL, we are going to do our research live right here on the show for NBA and the NHL. And that way, if you guys have questions, comments, you want to dive into anything specifically, we're going to get into it. Kevin D, I love where your head's at. I think I probably like Knicks to cover more, but we're going to dive into those trends. But I like where your head's at, thinking about loading up on those 2 road teams for today. Let's get to work, everybody. We've got some research to do. First game we're going to focus on is going to be the NBA game. I know we've got 2 NHL games, 2 NBA games, but the NBA starts first. Tip-off for this one is 3:30 between the Knicks and the Pacers. Right now, Pacers are 5.5-point favorites. That certainly has our attention. Money right now coming down on the Pacers. Tickets are on the Pacers. Money's coming down on the Knicks, everybody. 82% of the tickets are on the Pacers. 49% of the money is on the New York Knicks. That has our attention. 75% of tickets are on the Knicks to cover the 5.5-point spread. 76% of the money, back that up. 95% of the money that's been placed on this game is on the over. Let's dive into this one from a trend perspective, going to killersports.com. But before we do that, actually, I want to look at the injury report. One of the things I love about Outlier is I can see the injury report gives us a good indication of who's going to be on the floor for today. OG Anunoby is out. Left hamstring keeps him out of the lineup. That's the big news there. Aaron Nesmith is a game-time decision for the Indiana Pacers, so something to be aware of there. Let's go do our research, everybody. Let's look at the New York Knicks. When they're coming off a loss on just 1 day of rest, let's start there. Coming off a loss on 1 day of rest, they're 15-8 straight up. 16-7 against the spread. The unders performed a little bit better. But if we're just taking it on simply after a loss on 1 day of rest, they've been a pretty good team. Something actually that's interesting to note, under this scenario, they've actually hit the over in 5 straight games after a loss on 1 day of rest. How about when that is a away game? They're 7-5 straight up, 8-4 against the spread, and the over-under favors the over 7-5. In that game, the score margin has been 113 to 111. Very interesting to note there that it's a 2-point difference again. Right now, the Knicks are 5.5-point underdogs. So anywhere where I see the Knicks are either winning those games or losing by at least 5 points keeps me aware of a good spot to take in this one. Let's shift it over now and go when they're an away underdog. Just driving into this a little bit more. Those who like the overplay are certainly going to like what I'm seeing on this. When the Knicks are on 1 day of rest, coming off a loss, and they're an away dog, the over has hit in 4 straight games, and the over is 6-3 in the 9 games where this has been the case. Going to continue to just look at various trends on this one. How about when they're playing 1 day of rest after a loss, an opponent who has a winning record, so an above 500 winning percentage? Knicks are 9-7, so not great straight up, but 11-5 against the spread. The over's gone 9-7 and has hit in 5 straight games, 6 of their last 8. Continuing to just dive into some of the trends here. Let's say when the Knicks are coming off a loss after winning the previous 2 games. I'm just looking at various trends, seeing what comes up. Kind of an interesting note here, when the Knicks lost their last game but had won the previous two before that, they then went to 6-2 straight up, 6-3 against the spread. How about when the Knicks at any point this year have been an underdog of between 4 and 6 points, let's say? When they're an underdog of between 4, let's say equal to 4, and 6 points at any point this year, the Knicks are 6-7, so actually they have a losing record when they've had a spread set at the 5.5 that they have today. But they've gone 7-5-1 against the spread. They've actually gone 3-4 both straight up and against the spread in the last 4 games that fell under this scenario. The under has gone 7-6. Continuing to just look at some various trends on this one, when the Knicks play a game with a total that's set, let's say, between 215 and 220, which is the scenario for today. I gotta flip that around. It's less than 220. It's greater than 215. The Knicks have gone 8-4 when they've had a total between 215 and 220. The total for today is set at 219. The over is hit in 4 straight games. The over has gone 7-5. Something I'm not going to put up on my screen, but actually had my attention today. I mentioned this in our first show. I tend to look at referee assignments. I think referee assignments are actually valuable to look at. It's important to get an understanding of who's calling the game. The game for Knicks and Pacers is going to be reffed by Tony Brothers. Kind of an interesting note on this one. When Tony Brothers has been the referee for the New York Knicks, the Knicks have gone 3-0. Interestingly enough, when the Pacers have had Tony Brothers as the lead referee, they have gone 4-0. So Tony Brothers has actually been a favorable referee for both of these two teams. In looking at the referee assignments, the only referee actually who kind of sways things in one direction is Ben Taylor. He's the referee. So Tony Brothers is the crew chief, head referee. Ben Taylor is the ref. Ed Malloy is the umpire. Anyways, Ben Taylor, Pacers have a losing record with him. That's the only referee note that I really have there. That's the only thing that stands out. We've been looking at the Knicks a whole bunch. Let's take a look at the Pacers. Anything we could take from Pacers data. Pacers coming off a win so far this year actually have a losing record. They're 24-27 coming off a win. They're 22-28-1 coming off a win. So kind of interesting to note that they haven't been a great team at stringing together wins. When they're at home after a win, they've gone 16-11, but 11-15-1 against the spread. They've won their last 4 games at home after a win. Obviously, been a very strong home team through the playoffs and getting into the playoffs. They beat the Heat the last game of the regular season that they had at home. The over has hit in 5 of their last 6 games at home after a win. When the Pacers are a home favorite so far this year after a win, just 11-10 straight up, 6-14-1 against the spread. So after a win, when they're a home favorite, not actually a great play. Let's take a look at how they've done in that scenario against an opponent who has a winning record, as the Knicks do. So far this year, the Pacers, under that scenario, following a win, they're a home favorite against a team with a winning record. Loading it up on killersports.com right now. By the way, we will get to Nuggets on the money line in just a second. We're looking at this Knicks and Pacers game to get started, doing our NBA research. Then we're going to do some NBA player prop bets. We'll cover the NHL as well. Waiting for killersports.com to load up, being a little slow. Chase, 94% of the money on Knicks over. Does that affect your decision? A lot of what I'm seeing is favoring the over right now anyways, Chase. So I kind of like the fact that the money kind of validates that thinking. I'll probably move it down. I got burned last game by the total. I took over 218.5. It finished at 217. So I'm feeling a little raw on that one, Chase. But other than that, I still like the over in this. That over would have hit in the previous game if they didn't have like a 4-minute stretch there in the final 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter where there was no scoring. So I can kind of justify taking the over again. Speaking of which, actually, when the Pacers are coming off a win, They're a home favorite against a team with a winning record. They're 4-3 straight up, but just 2-5 against the spread. And to your thinking, Chase, the over is 5-2. I'm starting to get a good sense of where I'm going to come down on this game. I'm going to play with a few more trends just because I'm curious. How have the Pacers done when they've been a favorite of at least 4 points and they've been a favorite of between 4 and 6 points, let's say? When the Pacers have been a favorite between 4 and 6 points, they're a 5.5 point favorite right now. Straight up, they're 5-6. Against the spread, they're 5-6. Chase, another trend you're going to like. Again, when the Pacers have a spread between 4 and 6 points like they do today, the over 8-3. Interesting to note. How about when they're at home under that scenario? The over 8-2. I feel very good about this right now. The over seems to be something we're kind of all... Again, I mentioned this in the early show. I'll bring it up consistently. When I come up with a bet, I'm looking at as much data as I can get access to, and then I'm looking for constellations. I don't just want one trend going in a direction that I believe in. I want to see a series of them. 3, 4, 5, 6 variables that all point me in the same direction. Think of this like the scientific method. I know some of you think it's nerdy. It is, because I'm a nerd. But that said, we come up with a hypothesis. We think the Knicks are going to, go over their total. We're testing that against the data, seeing if it all points in the same direction. Then we come to our conclusion. Our conclusion on this one is we're going to take the over. The over seems to be pointing in a good direction on this. This opened at 218.5. It went up to 219.5. Came down to 217.5. It's really been fluctuating, actually. Interesting that there's been some line movement there. I do like the over. I am a bit cautious about it. I'm going to take it at 214.5. The reason for that, I feel like they get to 215 points. Like last game, though, do they get to 220? I'm so nervous about that. Right now, Chase, 220, it feels like the sports books, just like last game, are kind of setting us up for that. I thought last game they'd reach 220. They didn't. That's why I'm a little burned by it. I'm going to take over 214.5. That's being offered at minus 180 on FanDuel, minus 180 on DraftKings, minus 180 on ESPN Bet, and minus 185 on BetMGM. So if you have FanDuel, DraftKings, ESPN Bet, or BetMGM, this bet's available between minus 180 and minus 185. I feel like the reason I'm not taking the current line is because, again, last game burned me a little bit. I always am a little cautious. These two defenses can step up just enough in crunch time. So my first pick for this one is going to be Knicks, Pacers, over 214.5. And again, I'm getting that right now at minus 180 at the sports book that I use. Let's continue to dive into this game because right now, I kind of like the Knicks on the cover play. I love that the money's coming down in that direction. Really like the fact that the trends are kind of backing that up as well. But I just want to take a look at a couple more plays right here. When the Pacers are a home favorite against an opponent with a winning percentage greater than 500 so far this year, 10-4 straight up, 7-7 against the spread. We're kind of seeing consistency on the trends. Pacers money line, Knicks to cover seems to be very consistent in just the data that we've looked at. I do just want to quickly look at how the Pacers have done with this total when it's been greater than 215, but it's been less than 220. The Pacers this year have gone 1-3 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. Over's gone 3-1. Margin of difference in those 4 games was 4 points. I'm coming out on the same place on this. I'm going to take the Knicks to cover. This opened at 6.5, came down to 5.5. It's at 5.5 right now. I'm going to move it a little bit in my favor. I'm going to take the Knicks plus 7. Knicks plus 7 feels really strong for me right now. I'm getting Knicks plus 7 at minus 145. You can find that on DraftKings at minus 145. That's the sports book I use. By the way, I'm not advocating for any particular sports book. You shouldn't be overly loyal to one. Whoever offers the best odds, that's what you should go with. But I am seeing a good spot to take at DraftKings. Knicks plus 7. Feel good about that. I'll probably do a same game parlay and even shift those even more. If I do a same game parlay, I'll probably take Knicks like plus 8. And I'll take the over at like over 212.5. That way, I'm probably around even money for the bet, but I'm fine with that given that I'm giving myself a lot of cushion. So those are the first two picks we're making. We're going to go to the next NBA game, then we're going to do some player prop bets. Danny Dice, but we've just gone through a number of different variables. How they are at home, how they are on the road, how they are as a favorite or as a dog, how they do with a certain line against winning opponents, how they've done coming off a loss after multiple wins. So actually, Danny Dice, I don't, obviously, I'm not saying anything's a certainty, but I am saying the data that we're looking at, it's not just looking at it in a silo. We are looking at access to as much data as we can get our hands on, so if you don't agree with it, that's a separate story. Let's get to the next game that we have that we're going to focus on. It's the other NBA game for this evening. Nuggets, Timberwolves. Just real quick, for those that are curious, this game is going to be reffed by Scott Foster. However, he actually doesn't have any strong leaning either way. I did check on it before we started the show, but Scott Foster is the lead official. He's the crew chief for that game tonight. How's the money coming down on this game? It's coming down on the Nuggets. So right now the public has 73% of the tickets backing Minnesota, but 59% of the money is backing the Nuggets. You often hear from me when I see that discrepancy between public tickets and the smart money, I tend to follow the money because usually the money knows better than the public knows. But obviously that's only done once we look at the trends and the trends kind of validate that feeling. That said, Minnesota is getting 59% of the tickets to cover a 2.5-point spread, but only 54% of the money. So even when it comes to the spread, there's a bit more action coming down on the Nuggets than one would expect. The total, both the money and the tickets are favoring the over. I'm not so sure about that one. We'll have to dive into it. Let's start by looking at the Nuggets stats. When the Nuggets are coming off a win, and they are a road underdog so far this year. It's only happened 7 times. They're 3-4 straight up, 4-3 against the spread. The over-under's gone 3-3-1, so pretty flat across the board. Continuing to stay with the Nuggets, how about when they're coming off a win after multiple losses? So after back-to-back losses, getting a win, it's only happened 5 times this year. The Nuggets have gone 4-1. They've actually won their last 4 games under this scenario. Those games were against the Clippers, Bulls, Trailblazers, and Spurs. So not teams with winning records, certainly something that stands out. How about when the Nuggets are an away dog against a team with a winning record? So far this year, Nuggets have played 9 games as a road underdog against teams with winning records. They've gone 4-5 straight up, 5-4 against the spread, but they've won their last 3 in a row against the Warriors on February 25th, against the Lakers on April 25th, and then against the Timberwolves, obviously, in Game 3 just a couple of days ago. How about the Nuggets on the road on 1 day of rest? Taking a look at how rest is impacting things, Nuggets on the road this year on 1 day of rest are just 12-11, 9-13-1 against the spread. How about on 1 day of rest on the road, facing an opponent with a winning record? Again, just looking through various data points to see if there's a correlation, something that we can fall into. They've gone 7-9 straight up, 6-9-1 against the spread. Interestingly enough, they've actually failed to cover the spread in 4 straight games against teams with winning records when they're on 1 day of rest on the road. Honestly, Jay, I'm kind of with you right now. It feels like a real coin flip. I'm not loving it, but we've only looked at one side of it. We've looked at the Nuggets side. Let's take a look at the Timberwolves side of things. When the Timberwolves are coming off a loss so far this year, they're 22-4. So just put it this way, just coming off a loss, 22-4. How about when they're coming off a loss and they're at home? They're 12-3. Kind of interesting, actually, that they've been so good on the road after a loss. 3 of their 4 losses have actually come at home. Against the spread, they're 7-8 against the spread at home after a loss. What about when they're a home favorite? It's happened 14 out of the 15 times. They've gone 11-3. They've only covered the spread in 2 of their last 6 games under this scenario. However, they've won 5 in a row. How about when they're a home favorite after a loss against a team with a winning record? Continuing to just drill down on this point right here. They're 6-2 straight up, 3-5 against the spread. The over-under has gone 4-3-1. I continue to believe this is very much a coin flip of a game. There isn't a lot right now that I'm seeing that has me really diving in and believing in this one. Really quick, let's take a look at when the Nuggets have had a line greater than 2, but less than 4. Hasn't happened many times this year, just 3 times. They've gone 1 and 2. Our first kind of consistent trend, if you can even say it's that, in a 3-game sample size. The over has gone 3-0 when the Nuggets have been an underdog between 2 and 4 points. Kind of something that stands out there. Let's flip it over to the Timberwolves side. When the Timberwolves are a favorite of between 2 and 4 points, so far this year they're 14-6, only 10-9-1 against the spread. The over has gone 10-10, but good news for over bettors. The over has hit in 5 of their last 6 games under this scenario, when again they're a favorite of between 2 and 4 points. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Right now, the over is the only thing that has my attention. Last thing I'm going to touch on is looking at how these two teams have performed with this kind of total. When these two teams have had a total, let's just say less than 205. Right now, the total is set at 204.5 where I see it. The Timberwolves haven't played a game yet this year with a total this low. Let's set it to 210. The Nuggets have played 5 games with a total less than 210 points. They have gone 3-2 straight up, 2-3 against the spread. The over's gone 3-2. Interestingly enough, 3 of those 5 games have come against the Timberwolves. So obviously the Timberwolves driving that number down, not surprising, given their defensive ability. How about the total for the Timberwolves on that side? When the total for the Timberwolves is less than 210. Timberwolves have gone 5-2 this year, 4-3 against the spread, 4-3 on the over-under. Very tricky one for me to bet right now. Really, I'm not feeling it either way. I'm probably going to avoid the side on this. If I did go in any direction, honestly, I kind of want to go with the Timberwolves. I understand the money's coming down on the Nuggets, but that's why I'm not going to bet this one, because I have a differing opinion on this. Money's telling me one thing, trends are telling me another. I'm going to avoid it, but I do like the total. 204 just seems too low on this one. I'm going to take the over. It opened at 203.5. It moved up to 204.5. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this at 199.5. I believe we get to 200 points. So I'm going to take Nuggets. I'll take Timberwolves, and I'm going to say it gets to 200 points at 199.5, over 199.5. And one of the things I like about this is it's offered at minus 182. I can parlay that with the over in the Knicks and Pacers. Just kind of interested by that. Really quick, I actually want to look at a piece of data. I'm going to look at something random. You guys can be like, hey, Butt Fumble Sports, you're looking at craziness. That's fine. Since the start of April, I want to see since the start of April, I want to see how totals have done on Sundays. I know that sounds weird, but when the day of the week has been a Sunday, since April 1st, over-unders, I got to splice this a little bit. Overs have gone 23-14 on Sundays since the start of April. I know that's a random one, but that's kind of interesting to me. When the home team has been the favorite on Sundays, again, I know it's random, but since the start of April, overs are 19-10. The only reason I'm making note of that is because I'm betting the over, and so I was just kind of curious if Sunday was a day that like overs or unders were getting a bit more love. So I guess I'm happy that the over is just getting a bit more attention. But I am taking the over for both of these games. Knicks Pacers over 214.5. Nuggets Timberwolves over 199.5. The only other game pick that I'm making for these two games, I am going to take the Knicks at +7. Knicks +7 is where I'm coming down. Now, let's get to some player prop bets, everybody. I know we haven't done as many player prop bets for the NBA over the last few days, at least on the show. Let's get into some of them now. Let's start, as we always do. I like to look at points, rebounds, and assists and just see which matchups are favorable. So for point guard, for the Knicks, not great. Shooting guard, points favorable. Small forward, points and rebounds favorable. Power forward, points and center, assists and rebounds. Now, somebody brought up, obviously, Jalen Brunson. We've been betting very consistently on Jalen Brunson over 30 points. Now, Jalen Brunson has failed to reach 30 points in the last 2 games. Prior to that, he had hit it in 5 in a row. When it comes to points, though, not a great matchup. Pacers are a pretty good defense, but over 30 points has hit in 8 of his last 10 games. Right now, his point total is set at 32.5. Again, that feels a little high for me. Against the Pacers this year, he hasn't hit 32.5 in all 3 games against the Pacers in Indianapolis. When it's been in New York, he's hit over 30 1, 2, 3, 4 straight times. So here's the difference in this one. When he's at home, he scores 30 points or just around. When he's on the road against the Pacers, he goes under. This 32.5, I'm taking the under. By the way, let's take a look without OG Anunoby. When he hasn't had OG Anunoby in his last 10 games, he's only gone over 32.5 points 3 times in his last 10 games without OG. I'm taking the under on this. I'm going to take under 34.5 for Jalen Brunson. You heard me correct. I know I said I'm taking the over for the game, but I'm taking Jalen Brunson under 34.5 points. Just based on the trends, based on what I'm seeing, and based on the matchup, the under 34.5 points is actually what I like more. Let's get to our next game pick or player prop bet. On this case, Pascal Siakam, his matchup against the Knicks. Kind of curious about this one. When it comes to points, he had 26 points in his last game. Home games, he's only gone over this total twice. One of the reasons I'm actually calling it out against the Knicks, he's only hit this once in his last 5 games against the Knicks, though the previous 4 games were in New York. In his last 5 games, Pascal Siakam has only gone over 22.5 points 7 times. In his last 10 games, he's only gone over it 4 times. At home, it's even been more rare. Pascal Siakam, I kind of like the under on this as well. Pascal Siakam under 23.5 stands out to me. That might be something you want to jump on board with as well. Pascal Siakam under on points. Josh Hart. People were talking to me about Josh Hart's over-under on points, rebounds, and assists the other day. Now, on points, he's got a decent matchup, actually. He's gone over 15.5 points in 7 of his last 10 games. In away games, he's gone over this total in 4 of his last 6. Let's check it out when OG isn't on the floor. When OG doesn't play, though, he has missed this in 7 straight games. Interesting. So OG Anunoby has made a big difference for him. Against the Pacers, without OG Anunoby, he's missed it 3 straight games on the road. Wow, great trend here. Josh Hart under 15.5 points. He has missed this in 6 straight games when OG hasn't played. So Josh Hart, I would take this under 16.5. Putting this one on the board. Josh Hart under 16.5 points. Kind of interesting here. I'm betting the over, but I've got 2 Knicks players going under their point total. Kind of a little nervous about that, but I'm going with the trends I see. Josh Hart under 16.5 points. How about on rebounds, though? Dude has been a rebounding fiend right now. 12.5 is what it opened at. It's now up to 13.5. That's absolutely crazy. In road games, he has had double-digit rebounds in all 3 road games against the Pacers. In his last 10 home games, he's actually gone over 13.5 rebounds in 4 straight games. When OG Anunoby has been out of the lineup, Josh Hart has only gone over this rebound total 2 times in his last 10 games. It does include that last game against the Pacers. I'll avoid Josh Hart rebounds. Not exciting enough, not interesting enough, not enough trends behind it. Let's check out Miles Turner. Miles Turner, any good matchups here? Head-to-head against the Knicks. Let's take a look at his points. He has gone over 17.5 points in 4 of his last 6 games against the New York Knicks at home. His last 2 home games against the Knicks, he has gone over 20 points. It's set at 17.5 right now. Kind of interesting to note. In his last 10 games, really in his last 5, he has gone, his last 6 rather, he has gone over 17.5 points in 5 of his last 6 games. I kind of like Miles Turner to hit over his point total. I take Miles Turner over 15.5 points. Let's add that to the board. Miles Turner over 15.5 points. Appreciate you guys joining the show. If you want every pick I make every day for free, DM me on Instagram. Butt Fumble Sports puts out our picks for free every single day. They're live on SHARPZ right now. You can find them on the SHARPZ app. You can also find them on my Instagram account. Where's the board? Turtle, if you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Kick, you can see my board right now that shows all of my picks. When it's on TikTok, you're just seeing me. But if you actually watch our show on YouTube, Twitch, or Kick, you can see all the research that I'm doing live on the screen. You can also see the picks that I'm putting up. So if you guys, what's Kick? Kick is another streaming platform. So if you guys are on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, I think we might be on Twitter X. We're supposed to be hooked up to that. I'm not sure if it's actually working. But that said, you can actually watch our show on all those platforms and see our screen. What that said is, you can also find us obviously on TikTok. Jay, it should be Butt Fumble Sports. Butt Fumble Sports is our handle for almost everything. Appreciate you guys being with us. Again, the picks we've made so far for the NBA, we're taking Knicks and Pacers over 214.5. We're taking the Knicks +7, and we're taking Nuggets Timberwolves over 199.5. So we did an alternative line to move that Knicks Pacers down to 214.5. I gave my reasoning behind that a little while ago, so I'm not going to go back through all of that just now. If you want my MLB picks, they're already posted on the SHARPZ app or also on my Instagram story. Again, if you want all of my bets every day for free, just DM me on Instagram. They're never behind a paywall. I never charge for them. I love sports betting. I love fantasy sports. I love talking sports. My background, my professional career has largely been in sports media. I've worked at ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS Sports. I was a producer for Jim Rome. Most of my time was as a producer for fantasy sports and sports betting content. Additionally, I was also in content development and programming, if you guys know anything about sports media. Anyways, that's why I'm so passionate about what I do. That's why I would like to believe that I'm an entertaining host for some of the research that we do. But obviously, for all those out there, I never tell you something's a lock. There is no such thing as a lock in sports betting. So be very mindful of the fact we do our research. We try to find the best bets every day based on data. But that said, never take any bet as a lock. Anyone who tells you something is a lock, it's just not right, man. It's just not right, because that's simply not the case. Anything can happen in sports, but hopefully by looking at all the research and data, we can start to narrow in on what the better bets are just based on probability. I think it's better to focus on probability than it is certainty, because you're not going to get certainty from sports. That said, let's get back to our research. Someone brought up Dante DiVincenzo. Let's take a look at Dante DiVincenzo. If there's anything from his matchup that we like him on points. He's been a very good point performer over the last few games. He's actually gone over 22.5 points in 4 straight games. Now his over-under on points is set at 23.5. That feels like a little bit high, but that said, he's been hitting it, so you can't really disagree with it. He hasn't hit this too consistently. 23.5 is very high, so I'm gonna buy this down. It opened at 24.5. It came down to 22.5. It's now moved back up to 23.5. I'm going to buy it right now at 21.5. I can get this at 21.5 at -155 on DraftKings. I can actually get 20.5. It's only on FanDuel. So I'll take this on DraftKings at over 21.5. He's hit this in 4 straight games. I love seeing that. Without OG Anunoby in the lineup, he's actually hit this in 4 of his last 10 games, really 4 of his last 8. He's been pretty consistently over 20 points or hitting 20 points when OG doesn't play. It has me nervous that I can't get to 19.5 or 20, but 21.5 I'll have to do with. Against the Pacers, he's actually hit this in 3 straight games, 4 of his last 6, specifically when they've played in Indiana. He's hit it in back-to-back games in Indiana. So I like this one. I'll put it on my board. Dante DiVincenzo over 21.5 points. Now, if we like him on 21.5 points, 3-pointers made is certainly something we want to focus on. It's set at 4.5. He's hit this in 3 straight games. Can we get it at 3.5? You betcha. 3.5 is available. That's what I would take as well. Dante DiVincenzo has hit 4 3-pointers in 5 of his last 6 games against the Pacers. In his last 10 games, he's hit it in 4 straight. I would take this right now. Dante DiVincenzo over 3.5 3-pointers made. It's like 3-pointers made, or what's the abbreviation for that? 3TM? 3PTM? PTM? That seems awkward, but okay. Anyways, those are a few of the bets that we like player prop bet wise. Any other ones that stand out? What I love about Outlier rather, is I can quickly check. Miles McBride has gone under 12.5 points, rebounds, and assists pretty consistently actually against the Pacers. Interesting. 8 of his last 10 games, though he did hit the over last game. Hartenstein under 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists. 4 straight road games against the Pacers, he's missed this. In his last 10 games, he's only gone over it 3 times. Without OG Anunoby in the lineup, he's only hit it twice. That's a great bet, too. We're going to take Hartenstein. Oh, too bad. We're going to take Hartenstein. Where can I find it? Yeah, we're going to take it here. So I'm going to take Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein under 24.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. That's Isaiah Hartenstein under 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's only gone over this total twice in his last 10 road games. He has never hit this in 4 straight road games against the Pacers. Overall against the Pacers, he has only hit it once. That was back in February. That's without OG in the lineup, I should mention. Against the Pacers overall, he's only hit the over twice. It has been 2 of his last 4 games. But I like the under. I do like the under 24.5. Without OG. Jay, that's right. Without OG, making a big difference there. Appreciate you guys being with us. Those are some of the player prop bets we like so far. Quick recap of those. Jalen Brunson, under 34.5 points. Jalen Brunson, under 34.5 points. We like Josh Hart, we like Josh Hart, under 16.5 points. So Jalen Brunson, under 34.5 points. Josh Hart, under 16.5 points. We like Miles Turner, over 15.5 points. Dante DiVincenzo, over 21.5 points. As well as Dante DiVincenzo, over 3.5 made 3-pointers. And Isaiah Hartenstein, under 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Someone's asking about Hartenstein on rebounds right now. He's only gone over 10.5 2 of his last 9 games against the Pacers. In his last 10 games overall, he's only gone over this total 2 times. Again, one of the times was in game 2, I believe. But other than that, it's actually been a very good bet. Again, without OG Anunoby in the lineup, he's only hit it 1 time in his last 10 games. This is another good bet, everybody. Isaiah Hartenstein, I'm going to take it under 10.5. Under 10.5 is the right play. Good find. Isaiah Hartenstein, under 10.5 is a good play. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. No matter where you're with us, appreciate you guys being with us. Bet Reaper, you never hit a bet? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we've let you down. Appreciate you guys being with us. By the way, if you guys want to fade our bets, you can do that as well. Bet Reaper, if I have failed you, maybe you just fade our bets. Maybe that's a thing you can do. My whole approach is I don't treat these as my bets. I treat this as the data and what it's showing us. So if you guys are interested in that, that's how I approach things. It's really how I go about my business in terms of research. So if you don't agree with it, you don't have to follow us. So Bet Reaper, maybe you fade us every time. But I do things based on data, trends, analytics. If you're saying what we're looking at is wrong, then fade us. Or don't watch us. That's up to you. But if you're not about our research, it's totally cool. I don't take it personal. But honestly, I'm just following the data. That's really all I'm doing. So anyways, with that said, let's get to work. Bet Reaper, go for it. By the way, I actually think one of my favorite things since we started Butt Fumble Sports is haters, because haters are so entertaining. So Bet Reaper, I'm not saying you're a hater. You're a fader. That's totally cool. Fade Butt Fumble Sports. I'm all about it, buddy. But don't use our logo, because we own it. So don't use it. That said, Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's get to work on that game in terms of player prop bets. Any matchups that we like, not the point guard position. We're looking at Timberwolves first. Man, this really is a game. Mr. Kane, honestly, you got to love the haters, though. I don't think he's a hater. That model should retire. But here's what's interesting. We actually just do things based on data, trends, and analytics. So it's funny because what he's really saying is more often than not, the trends that we follow are actually due to go the other way. That may be the case. Maybe you just want to fade us. I'm not giving you a direction in one way or the other. Okay, power forward, centers, that's what we're going to do. When do you talk about Josh Allen mid-September fantasy football talk? Don't worry, actually. So to all the fantasy football players out there who watch us for that content, we're going to do some mock drafts in the next few weeks. Now that Rival Fantasy is loading up the rookies, we will be doing a lot of that fantasy football prep in the next few weeks. By the way, Jay, don't worry about it. Doesn't bother me. When you have the name of your company starts with a butt, you understand you can be the butt of a joke. You can have your haters. It doesn't bother me in the least. With that said, let's take a quick look at if we like Cat for points today. Cat right now, his over-under for points, rebounds, and assists is set at 29.5. If I see him as a center, he's got a decent matchup on points. Kind of curious about his point total set right now at 19.5. He obviously didn't hit this in his last game. Prior to that, he had hit it in 4 straight games against the Denver Nuggets. Head-to-head, it's actually been a pretty good trend. However, hasn't been a good trend overall. Cat hasn't been a very good 20-point scorer over his last 10 games. Jorge, I didn't look at Halliburton. I can go back to that, though. I'm not seeing a lot of value on Cat in home games. He hasn't gone to 20 points in 9 straight home games, so just be aware of that. Now, I understand against the Nuggets at home, he's hit 20 points in 2 of his last 4 games. But if I just look back in his last 20 games, in Karl Anthony Towns' last 20 games at home, he has only reached 20 points in 6 games. That's incredibly low. It's been a long time since he hit it. The last time Karl Anthony Towns scored 20 points at home was February 24th, and that was an overtime game against the Nets. Interesting data, everybody. Tell me what you can follow me, you can fade me, that's up to you. But I'll tell you the data that I'm seeing. Karl Anthony Towns under 21.5 points. That's been a very good trend. I don't know what to tell you, folks. Someone asked about Tyrese Halliburton. Let's take a quick look at that one. Tyrese Halliburton, 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists. 34.5 points, rebounds, and assists is what I'm seeing. The matchup's not a favorable one. Head-to-head against the Knicks, though, he's actually been performing very, very well. Head-to-head against the Knicks, he has gone over this total in back-to-back games. 3 of his last 4 games against the Knicks overall. How about on points? He has gone over 21.5 points in 3 of his 4 games against the Knicks. 2 of his last 3 games at home against the Knicks. How about in his last 10 home games? I don't really like Halliburton enough. Do I think he could reach 21 points? Sure, especially against the Knicks, but hasn't been a great trend. He has only reached 21.5 points. He's only reached 22 points in 5 of his last 20 games overall. Kind of interesting there. By the way, Waka, that is a great, I totally agree with you. Packers, 20-1 for the Super Bowl. I have no problem with that. I think those are great odds. Good roster, young quarterback. The NFC has a lot of jockeying right now, and the Packers could easily rise to one of the top 4 teams if they're not already in that conversation. I think their only real threat really is the Lions in the division, but I love the take there. Okay, so I'm not big on Halliburton today. I will check out his assist total. We looked at points. His assist total right now is set at 8.5. Opened at 9, went to 9.5, came down to 8.5, where it is right now. In his last three home games against the Knicks, he's gone over this total twice. Did not hit it in his last game. In his last 10 home games, he's gone over 8.5 assists 6 times. His last 20 home games, he's gone over this 12 of his last 20. If you wanted to take it, I'd take over 8.5, but I don't like it enough, to be honest. Someone was asking just a moment ago about Aaron Gordon. Let's check out Aaron Gordon. And you're looking specifically at rebounds. Not a great matchup if I'm being honest with you. Head-to-head against the Timberwolves, he's missed it in 3 straight games against the Timberwolves. On the road against the Timberwolves, he's hit it in 4 of his last 6, but he missed it last game. Only 2 rebounds last game. In his last 20 road games, he's hit it in 12 games. His last 10, he's hit it in 6. On 1 day of rest, he's gotten this in 7 of his last 10 games. On 1 day of rest against the Timberwolves, he's gotten it in 3 of his last 4. I like this more than I should. Let's put it this way. It opened at 4.5, went to 5.5, has since come back down. I kind of like it. I like it more than I thought I would. Over 3.5 is available, but not at great odds. Over 4.5, I'm okay with this one. I'm actually willing to take this one. So, Justin, over 4.5 I would take. Over 5.5 I would not. Over 4.5 yes. Over 5.5 I would not. What's up, B? Hope you're doing well. Someone's asking about 3-pointers made for Jamal Murray. Let's take a look at Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, we're going to look at 3-pointers made specifically. His matchup is not necessarily a favorable one. A tough matchup for him. 3-pointers made. Here's a good note, though. He's had at least 2 3-pointers in 3 of his last 4 games against the Timberwolves. Whoa, what just happened? Sorry, in 3 of his last 4 games on the road against the Timberwolves. Overall against the Timberwolves, 4 of his last 5 games, he's actually hit this. He missed it in game 2. Other than that, it's been a very consistent trend. How about on days with 1 day of rest? When he has 1 day of rest and plays the Timberwolves, he's hit it in 3 of his last 5 games. Overall, in his last 10 games on 1 day of rest, he's actually hit it in 5 of his last 10, but only once in his last 4. Kind of interesting there. The Timberwolves are the number 1 defense when it comes to 3-pointers allowed to point guards. Probably the reason I wouldn't touch this. Not a very good trend maker. Wow, I say that. And then on the road, on 1 day of rest, he's hit this in 4 of his last 5 games, 5 of his last 7, 6 of his last 10. It's a better trend than I thought, but I don't like the matchup. Catch and fades, I probably avoid it. I just don't like it enough. I'm on the fence about it, but just don't like it enough. I think it's time we talk some hockey, everybody. Adam Jackson, you got me fired up. Let's go talk some puck. We've done enough NBA for now. If you guys want me to get back to the NBA, we'll touch on it maybe a little bit later. But let's talk some NHL. We haven't covered any NHL for today's show. Let's start with the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. Panthers are not only the favorite on the money line, they are getting some love on the spread. They are a 1.5 goal favorite. 70% of the money is on them to cover that spread. This is bad news for Bruins bettors. 69% of the money, 69% of the tickets is on the Bruins to cover the goal spread, but the money is on the Panthers. That discrepancy always has me wanting to follow the money, so definitely something that I'm going to pay attention to. Let's dive into some trends, everyone. So, specifically, we are going to start with the Florida Panthers. Panthers are coming off a win. When they are coming off a win, and they are a road favorite so far this year, they're 18-5, really strong. Wow. They're 18-5, and the over has been a very good trend. The over is hit in 6 straight games when the Panthers are a road favorite coming off a win. Very interesting. They average about 4 goals in those games. That's definitely something that stands out there. Panthers after a win as a road favorite. How about when they're coming off a win, but the prior game had been a loss? It'll shrink the sample size. 4-3 straight up, 5-2 towards the over. Actually, they're coming off back-to-back wins. What am I saying? When the Panthers are coming off back-to-back wins and they're a road favorite, 14-2 straight up. 14-2 straight up. The only losses they have are to the Lightning and to the Kraken. The Lightning loss came April 27th. The loss to the Kraken came back in December 12th. Wow. That really stands out to me there. Panthers, money line, certainly looking good. How about on 1 day of rest? Wow, both of the losses did come on 1 day of rest. They're 8-2 on 1 day of rest after back-to-back wins when they're a road favorite. The over has been favorable. By the way, for those who watched our earlier show, and I told everyone I was doubling down on Juan Soto getting a hit. He finally broke his slump, finally got a hit. You can put that cash in the bank. With that said, the over has gone 6-4 when the Panthers are on back-to-back wins as a road favorite on 1 day of rest. I know those are a lot of variables to put in there. I love the fact, though, we're getting some really good odds on it. How about when Bruins, or really good trends on it, rather? Bruins, back-to-back losses. When the Bruins have back-to-back losses and they're at home. I'm just going to focus first, coming off back-to-back losses and they're at home. Bruins have gone 5-2. By the way, Aaron Judge, home run. There you go. Yankees up 6-0. Anyways, Bruins are 5-2 off back-to-back losses at home. They've won their last 4 in a row. The over has gone 4-3. Bruins are averaging around 3.5 goals in those games. Everything I'm seeing has me liking the over. The over right now is set at 5.5. I freaking love this. I'm taking the over on this. Over 5, over 5.5. I'm jumping on board. That's Panthers. That's Bruins. That's over 5. That's over 5.5. Like those very, very much, just based on the trends and the data that we're looking at. Very, very popular there. Let's continue to dive into this one, though, if we can find a side that we like. How about when the Bruins are coming off of just one loss as a home underdog? They're 0-1 this year, the over hit. The only time that happened was against the Panthers in the previous game. Wow, very interesting. How about when the Panthers are a home dog in general? Bruins this year have been a home dog just 3 times. They're 0-3. 0-3 as a home dog this year. How about when the Bruins are just a dog coming off a loss? 3-2. How about off of back-to-back losses? Still 3-2. So I still like the Panthers on the money line. That's what I'm going to take. Panthers money line. I will take the over 5.5. So Panthers win, and I've got the Panthers and Bruins going over their goal total for this game. Let's get to the next NHL game. We've got one more NHL game to focus on. Hi, Jennifer. Hope you're having a great day. Canucks, Oilers. Right now, the money is favoring the Oilers. 82% of the tickets are on the Oilers. Only 65% of the money on the Oilers to win. However, when it comes to that 1.5 goal spread, 43% of the tickets are on the Oilers to cover the spread, but 74% of the money. So in both games today, the money is coming down on the favorite to cover the spread, even though the tickets are not. Let's take a look at the Canucks and Oilers. Canucks coming off. Canucks win? Canucks lost. The Canucks lost their previous game. Coming off a loss when they're on the road as an underdog. Canucks are actually 4-2 under that scenario. Over/under is 3-3. Canucks have actually covered the spread in 5 of the 6 games they've played when they've been a road underdog after a loss. Kind of interesting there. Let's take a look at how the Oilers have done coming off a win as a home favorite. Oilers, after a win, home favorite. Oilers have gone 23-6 under this scenario, but they're actually just 1-2 in their last 3 games. Kind of interesting there. This isn't one I'm crazy about. How about on one day of rest? Canucks after a loss on one day of rest. They're 9-6 straight up. They've only won 2 of their last 6 games under that scenario. The over's gone 10-4-1. How about when that's the case? One day of rest after a loss and they're on the road. 4-4 straight up. They've lost their last 3. The over is 7-1 when the Canucks are coming off a loss, are on the road on one day of rest. As they say south of the border, muy interesante. When the Oilers are coming off a win on one day of rest, they're 23-10. When they're at home, they're 15-4. They've lost their last 2 under that scenario, though. How about as a favorite? 15-4 still. They're averaging 4 goals per game. I'm taking the over. What again stands out to me in this one is the over. Right now it's set at 6.5. I'm going to buy this at 5.5. So that's going to be Canucks, Oilers, over 5.5 goals. Feel very good about that one. Feel very good about that. Don't really like a side. If I'm being honest, I'm leaning towards the Oilers, but I don't really love a side on this one. So that's how I come down on those picks. We've been live for just about an hour. After this is our second show of the day, we've been live for about 3 hours today. So I certainly hope you've enjoyed the content and the conversation. Here's a recap of the picks we've made during today's show. We have Knicks, Pacers, over 214.5. We have the Knicks, +7. We have Nuggets and Timberwolves, over 199.5. Jalen Brunson, under 34.5 points. Josh Hart, under 16.5 points. Miles Turner, over 15.5 points. Dante DiVincenzo, over 21.5 points and over 3.5 3-pointers made. We have Isaiah Hartenstein, under 24.5 points. And then for hockey, we have Panthers Bruins, over 5.5 goals. Panthers on the money line. And we're taking Canucks and Oilers, over 5.5 goals. I really hope you guys have enjoyed all the show, all the content, all the conversation. I am so grateful for all of you guys being with us. Hope you guys hit that follow button. Hope you guys join us every single day when we go live. We are live across TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick almost every single day. And again, if you ever want to follow our picks, DM me on Instagram. How do you tip? If you guys want to contribute to the show, you can send gifts through TikTok. You can tip us on YouTube or Twitch. We're grateful for the support that you guys show us. I am so grateful that you guys take time out of your day to watch our content. We appreciate you guys donating to the show, but we never ask you to pay for our picks. We give away our picks for free. All you have to do is DM me on Instagram. Butt Fumble Sports on Instagram. DM me on Instagram. You can get every pick that I make every day for free. And of course, you can find us on YouTube, Butt Fumble Sports. Our handle is the same, no matter the platform. So grateful for you guys that watched today, both of our shows. Hope you guys join us again tomorrow. We'll be live probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock tomorrow. Until then, I hope you stay healthy. I hope you stay safe. Enjoy your Mother's Day, all you mothers. For all of you kids out there, and everybody's a kid of a mother, go celebrate and show love and share some love with your mom out there. So grateful for all of you guys watching the show. Can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Until then, goodbye, everybody.